Good morning. Good morning. Good to see everybody. Okay. Uh-oh, I did it. I gotta go back. Okay. I'd just like to begin the presentation with a very short excerpt from a book written by Clint Van Winkle. I don't know if anyone has read this. The title is Soft Spots. He was a Marine Sergeant in 2003 and was in the Battle of Nasiriyah. A very powerful read. It's reader friendly, but I found it's like a chapter at a time is really the most you can do. Sometimes it's just 2 pages. He really goes to the heart of things, but I feel as though this particular excerpt gets us all into the room, on the same page as to where we're starting here today. So please indulge us. It's too late to turn back. Is it too late to turn back? I asked the group. It was too late to turn back. The families had all already caught a glimpse of us and were howling like a pack of hyenas in heat. Within range of the shrieking crowd, in view of the homemade welcome home signs and crying women, I started to feel queasy. A spring opened up in my palm, sending rivers of sweat down my fingertips. What would I say? What could I say? Turn back, turn back, turn back. Only a handful of people had gathered in the Norfolk International Airport to welcome us home. No band, no parade, no ticker tape like the Desert Storm veterans had been subjected to. Nothing like I had imagined, but I was thankful for the lackluster greeting. I wanted to see my family, but didn't want to leave the other guys. The people waiting for us were strangers, even though I knew every last one of them. Hugs from the civilians felt as foreign as walking around without a weapon. Sarah wrapped her arms around my neck and squeezed. Her tear-soaked cheek dampened my collar. I looked at her, surveyed the passing crowds of people, sized each one up, and looked for anything out of place. 10 minutes of how you doings and high fives. Then we collected our dusty olive dressy bags and went our separate ways. That's it? I should have realized the anticlimactic return home would only foreshadow things to come, and that nothing would ever again be what it seemed. So reintegration is the road home from war, and it is our privilege to assist, support, and care for our veterans in this journey. Hopefully this will work. So what do we know about our returning warriors? They're very young. The largest age group is between the ages of 20 and 29 years old. Many have served multiple deployments. 92% have known someone seriously injured or killed. 74% have seen a dead or seriously injured American. 47% have handled or uncovered human remains. 48%, admittedly 48%, have been responsible for the death of an enemy combatant. 28% of a civilian. These stats come from 88th Regional Readiness Command. Our veterans are coming home from war with post-traumatic stress, traumatic brain injury, amputation, loss of vision, loss of hearing, burns, and spinal cord injury. And these are primary diagnoses of our focus, that we focus on. However, their profound life experience underlying is one of profound grief. And if we miss this, the veteran will not and cannot fully reintegrate. Their losses are deep. Their internal selves are shattered after war. Their foundational beliefs about right and wrong about good and evil are torn. After returning fire, they wonder, did I kill someone? After killing someone, did I commit murder? Is God going to forgive me? Have I done good or evil? And if I have done evil, then what am I? It does not matter to the internal self that they did not have a choice. They're still haunted by the awareness that in killing, a person has committed the greatest wrong, and it offends the most core values of humankind. There is a disconnect of a person's psyche from military training, and our combat veterans struggle daily with this experience. Their sense of safety and fundamental belief about the continuity of life is gone due to the nature of war. Coming under fire, an IED or an RPG attack, they wonder, will I live? Not wanting to come under fire again, they wonder, will I survive tomorrow? Their innocence is extinguished. Once fanciful fireflies in the night may be seen as tracer rounds. Once brilliant 4th of July firework displays, now possible mortar attacks. Highway overpasses, browsable store aisles, now a potential ambush. Garbage at the side of the road, now a possible IED. The expected civility and goodness of one to another, now they know what people are capable of. They've had friends wounded and friends killed. When we lose someone, we lose a part of ourselves. That part that was in relationship with that person and only existed when in relationship with that person. And often you'll hear a veteran say, he's always with me, as they struggle with their accompanying survivor's guilt. Why did I survive? It was me. I was supposed to be in the convoy that day, in the turret that day. That seat was going to be mine, and it should have been me. He was a better person and would have done more with his life. They've participated in sanctified killing, and our soldiers undergo a very high level of training to pull the trigger, and they do. But the effects of the bullet leave a lasting impression. Our society has many rituals to symbolize our life transitions. However, we have no communal rights for sanctified killing. Typically, our society thinks that veterans grieve for their lost friends only, but not for those that he or she has killed. So they're also disenfranchised grievers with no place to have acknowledgement of that loss. Beyond recognition, a soldier seeks the meaning of their encounter with death and with killing in the moral stance of our civilian community. They need to know if their actions are viewed as brave and heroic or cowardly, as necessary and purposeful or meaningless. They come home with changes in functioning due to emotional and moral injury. How now do I interact with my wife, with my husband, with my children, my mom, my dad, my friends, my neighbor I meet in the food store, strangers at a ball game, in a restaurant? How do I sleep? How do I drive? How do I work? How do I not rage when I watch the news? Hearing again the names of the many same cities, regions, and areas where we fought and where so many sacrifices were made. And now the prospect of what I hoped might be a military career is gone. What's my role? And there's the reality of homecoming, another significant loss. They return home anticipating this happy homecoming. However, their home and relationships are not what they were. The family is fully functioning without him or her. What do I do now? They no longer have the daily responsibilities and structure of military life. Their identity, defined by the connectedness to their team, is gone. Where is my team? Who is my team? I was part of a single mission, but it was a shared mission, and it had an intense bond. We depended on one another for survival. And now I'm home. Who knows them the way the other guys know them? And they wonder, how do I find meaning? Once a clear purpose is gone. They're called hero upon their return home, and many feel that the heroes were those who were killed. They carry guilt for things that they've done or not done. How can I ever talk about this? Will I be charged with war crimes? How can I be called a hero? Civilian life is indeed a culture shock. Does anyone know we're at war? We don't see it in the news. They don't hear about it in their communities. And what do yellow ribbon support outreach magnets really mean? Suffering multiple losses without the opportunity for mourning can result in complicated grief. These layers of loss, compounded, sustained, unmourned over time, cut deep. It's a lasting wound, an injury that cannot be seen with the eye. Their sorrow and grief are untold. Their never-ending past deprives the present of meaning and identity. They may deny, repress, and avoid aspects of the loss, its pain, and the full realization of its impact. They may hold on to and avoid relinquishing the lost in themselves, their friend, the enemy, as though in letting go they would forget, and that in letting go it would be a betrayal. Veterans are, sorry, this got cut off, we had to reform it. Veterans are asking, can and how do we live with this? And why can't I be who I was before? It's a source of great grief. Tom Chaten wrote of the grinding horror of war as a daily reality that eventually pervades the person, the reality of a person's being. The horror is no longer out there. Rather, it's invaded the fabric of their own life and is now a part of them. With this comes a radical change in personality, brought on by living sustained, ongoing, imminent threats of injury, of killing, of being killed. A change brought on by living a value system foreign and antithetical to anything they've previously known. The change comes as a result of the cumulative, recurring pattern of exposure, little by little, to unacknowledged, depreciated, unpublicized risk and peril, and the accompanying unacknowledged, depreciated, and unpublicized loss and grief they handle each day. The combat veterans' plea is that we understand. He and she are different now, and they have not returned home as the same person who left. That they're looking for an identity based in the here and now, to give inner order, strength, and meaning, to find their place again in the civilian world and their place again on the planet. We cannot and would not take their combat experience away. It's their experience, and it's their story. The work is toward acceptance of painful truths and terrible losses they've suffered. They're seeking peace, and to make peace with those losses. Who am I now may be the most difficult and important question the survivor must finally answer. What we do, again, my apologies, this isn't formatting correctly. What we do is not really combat therapy. We're grief counselors. Military training is, and necessarily so, cognitively focused. It is orderly, with clearly defined roles, specific jobs, tasks to fulfill the mission. We also must offer that focused step-by-step approach that's so familiar. We provide care that is orderly, well-defined, goal-oriented, with specialized tasks for providers to fulfill in our mission in caring for veterans. However, it cannot be all that we offer, or we will miss the fundamental need of reintegration, which is to honor and to heal the emotional experience of war. A soldier is not able to mourn losses in the field, for their deceased or wounded friends, for the loss of their assumptive world, for their participation in sanctified and rewarded killing. Their inability to mourn in combat may cause a veteran to experience inhibited mourning or complicated mourning. There's no time to grieve or reflect, because to enter mourning, to consider, to question, would put themselves and fellow soldiers at greater risk of being killed. As clinical providers, we do not look to identify pathology. We do not expect the combat veteran to get on with life. We do not measure them against our civilian norm. We're there to support and acknowledge their experience of inner death as they seek a new identity and a rebirth of themselves over time. We provide the basics. We could extend a warm welcome, extend our hand, we greet, we express our gratitude for their sacrifice in the form of services and care that's offered, and we educate them. We have veterans that come in that don't understand what's happening. They don't know what these symptoms are, because the disconnect with moral injury, again, the expectation of our country, you guys are trained, you women go out, you do your thing and come back, we're all good. Look, you're looking good. They don't know we need to educate them about what it is that they're struggling with. So we set the tone, we're calm, genuine, organized, competent, and then we close the door and we listen. We be with them, we go with them, and we stay with them. Our presence to one another is one of the most valuable and powerful gifts we have to offer as human beings. The way we cope with and process feelings is to bring them to light, to examine losses in all their rawness and feel them. It's a profoundly personal process as they restructure meaning in their lives. And it's inextricable for defining who they are today. We allow the feeling to come and we share that moment, and it's a major therapeutic moment when they know that you know, and they're no longer alone with it. Our veterans don't come to us to readily share their experiences. They don't readily share their memories, their stories. Not only because of the pain in the retelling and the shame in retelling, but also for fear that we will not properly receive these stories. They're telling us and recalling the memories not for the horrific nature of it, but rather to express their sadness, to mourn, and to find their way back. To integrate, accept their experience, and honor what it is they've lost. How often, when we go there with them, we may see tears in their eyes and feel them come up in our own. We have offerings of acceptance. I am understood and known here. Safety. I'm protected here. Validation. I'm not going crazy. Trust. I'm not alone. Self-determination. I'm in charge of where this is going. And hope. I can do this, and I will do this. These offerings we present and offer in our clinical work are there in the very first moments that we meet a veteran, and every time we re-engage with them going forward. They're foundational to every interaction we have. Keep in mind, always, this warrior has suffered tremendous loss, is in pain, and is in mourning. Remember their sacrifice and their ongoing sacrifice. A combat veteran's sacrifice continues every day on home soil. It's difficult work. Grief is a process of restructuring meaning. Trauma and loss can break apart and fragment the structure of our lives and the story we've constructed it to be. There's a resistance to recovery in mourning. as if grief is the only thing that we have left of the person, their experience, of their friend. And if in stopping grieving, it would be a betrayal of the person in that experience. Loss, the reflection of losses suffered, and how each has impacted them. They see things missing now, but also find things that remain embedded in our beings and in our lives. And we honor that, and we give voice to that. The aspects of the person that's been lost, and the experience of that person that goes on in us. And for the veteran, this includes, too, finding again aspects of their very selves that they have themselves lost. There's helplessness, and veterans commonly use their defenses to avoid feeling the pain of their condition. Their emotional volatility and depths of helplessness can overwhelm us as care providers, who would be trying, and in our most caring way, trying to be of assistance to them. The helplessness in coming under profound immersion in their losses and acknowledging these unseen wounds is essential, though, for recovery of heart, spirit, soul, and mind. In the safety and support of relationship, a veteran can return to these losses and allow feeling what was forbidden to feel and acknowledge in war zone. The therapeutic experience involves the embrace and honoring and bearing witness to the veteran's experience. It is a painful process that avoidance does not remedy, and that medications cannot remedy. As providers, we have to remember that you cannot lead a client to a place you yourself cannot go. Sadness and grief are not emotional states of preferred choice for us, and certainly not for our veterans. But it is where we are. They are. So we too need to be. Veterans cannot escape what they've seen. They cannot escape what they've experienced. We're guides, companions, in the process of returning home. What is the meaning to the veteran? What does it say to him or her? And bringing those losses to consciousness. We must be able to go there freely, openly, and with ease. What has been our own life experience of loss? Do we mourn? How do we mourn? Do we bear witness to our own losses? Do we honor our own losses? Do we accept our own losses? How are we affected by the sacrifices and losses of our veterans who suffer each day with them? What do we do with that grief, with that sadness in our day? What do we do with that sadness when we go home at the end of the day? In summary, reintegration requires grief work. It happens over time. It involves new ways of thinking. It depends on self-acceptance and forgiveness. It reconciles the fantasy versus the reality of the homecoming. And saying yes to this process is a difficult first step to take, but it does restore the person's sense in being here at home and figuring out who I am now. Engaging in the process with the veteran, he or she affirms what they experienced in war, not necessarily as good or bad, but that it was, and therefore is now a person, part of that person's history. Having providers there with them, willing to make the journey, lets war over time become a part of the person's past, and seeking to develop and live in the present now. We understand, and we engage differently now, knowing that healing these deep losses of combat requires more than retelling of the sights, smells, sounds of what was experienced. Military service is not something to be hidden, but in revisiting the experience of war, a veteran gives words to tell their own truth and frees his or her heart from bondage to it. They remember, honor, and remember and honor again, and again, and again, moving forward each day on the road home from war, the process of healing and reintegration. Thank you. Thank you very much. I just really appreciate you listening. And just as a little backstory, there was a Vietnam veteran I worked with some years ago. He'd been home 40 years and had never been in therapy, and he came to me for weekly sessions. It was very difficult. He wasn't always able to make it out of his home. But I had to have worked for VA at that point, probably 10 or 15 years. And I had, and I'll admit it here, I had no understanding of moral injury at all. I understood PTSD and the conceptual pieces to that, and diagnostic, whatever. But he, in session one day, he started to talk to me, after we had been working together a period of time. Trust was clearly a very difficult issue for him. And he came in one day and he said, I have to tell you something. And he was talking about, that he had taken these particular lives in this firefight, and that how that was for him now. He was an only son and raised in a Italian Catholic family. But he said, and then what really gets me, he goes, we did this whole thing, and so I had taken a few of these guys, he goes, but then what we would do, and he kind of put his head, punched his head down, really ashamed, and he said, we used to go and, ravage the bodies, take their belts and whatever crap they had in their pockets, and he was ashamed of that. And then he said, one day I did that, and I went into the guy's top pocket, and he had a picture of his wife and his two children. And he said, he's me. He's me. And I just love this guy so much. I don't work with him anymore. It was my first realization of moral injury. The enemy is, and I can't speak, I'm not a veteran. But human beings are dehumanized, so you can go out and do what you got to do, and I get it, I get it. But for him, it was one of the most painful things to see, because, he had a wife at home and a young son at home, and he knew now this guy also had, and he wasn't coming home. And so that's, for me, started the journey. There's just not a lot to talk about it. When I started to try to read about it, to educate myself about it, there's just not a lot. I mean, we've got some trailblazers in the room. Dr. Pico will speak. Of some of that. But there just wasn't a lot written about it. So I just would encourage you. I think the turnout here was tremendous. I think there's an awareness that this is a huge piece. PTSD is there. That fearfulness, afraid you're going to die, experiencing horrible things, but it's some of this stuff, the doing or not doing, not correcting something that, it wasn't like him. He goes, what was I going to do, stand there while everybody else is ravaging, taking stuff, he looked like an idiot, he goes, I had to do it, and there's just this moral injury piece is such a huge piece and so important to the work we're doing, so please, keep reading and pursuing the knowledge base. Again, I have no idea. I'm in the field at VA in a VA organization for 26 years. I've been out of school for a while before that, and this never even crossed my training desk, which is ridiculous, Anyway, I had to just give voice to him. There's a number of veterans I would like to give voice to, some that I've lost, but we have a guy, and I'm sorry but thanks for ingratiating me with this moment. His 7-year passing will be on Tuesday. I'm in contact with his mom still. She lives in California. but even the way that we are indoctrinated as a society. And again, I don't want to sound paranoid or. He was an Army Ranger, and in '03, he was part of the team that went in to rescue Jessica Lynch. Now, Jessica Lynch, some may remember, they had, her unit had been ambushed, and people were taken, and she was held in this hospital setting, whatever. And the team went in to get her, but it was like a SEAL team, I guess, that went into the hospital. They breached the wall and went in to get her. And but they were like, well, where's the rest of her team? There were 5 other male veterans and 3 female that were with her at the time of the ambush, and they weren't in the hospital. So the SEAL team's dealing with that, and some kind of said, well, you got to get out there, go to the soccer field. Now this kid was like, he was just an amazing kid, only child of this woman, had been a tremendous soccer player for like 12 years of his life, big head of bushy red hair. Wore flip-flops in the winter. I'm not wearing shoes. I don't even wear shoes. Sorry, that was him. I channeled him. See? He came to me. He came. Thank you, Nick. He's like, lighten up, Beth. You're getting heavy in the room. It's a Friday. Shit. So anyway. LCSW, let me get my name. But what you don't know, because if you go in and you're aware of the press, or you can Google now, you'd have to dig deep to find the true story of what happened there. Those 8 other soldiers were buried. They had been tortured. Some of them had, had their body parts removed, and he and these other members of his team had to go out and, no person's going to be left, none of our guys are getting left behind, and had to hand dig these body parts of their fellow soldiers, and for him, on a soccer field. And the first time I met him, he came into my office, he was half drunk actually, and he really struggled terribly. And the first thing he sat down, he looked at me and he just said, Beth, God and I had a falling out over there, and I'm not coming back. And he just, and again, I'm sorry to say, he didn't make it. I don't think it was intentional, but we lost him 7 years ago on Tuesday. He died at 29. Great, great kid, and I subsequently, his mom came from California, and I got to meet her, and just a really strong woman, and, I don't know, I feel sometimes like these sacred things, or I don't know if that's getting too hokey, but I feel things that when you're a clinical provider and working with combat veterans who choose to say things out loud to you that they've never said before. You have to hold them very dearly and very deeply for what they are, because they're gifts. And honor those people, continue to honor them. However you honor that whole mourning piece, we gotta get a handle on that. We can't, it's all good, it's all good. If I hear that one more freaking time, it's really not all good. I know that's a coping strategy, but it's really not all good. It's okay to feel hurt and sad and angry and frustrated, but then what do you do with that? Because again, this is usually around people we love or things that are important to us, things that we believe are true and right about our fellow people or the world or, or ourselves. I can't believe I did that. That's not me. It's... Anyway, that's all I got. I'm sorry. I just, and again, I can't thank you enough, but please, please keep up looking at this, and because I feel like we're just at a very early start, which is insane in understanding, and not even understanding, but getting the discussion going about these types of injuries, because you don't see them. They're not visual. So anyway,